Hi, I'm Matthew from castingacross.com. In my opinion, fly line is the most underappreciated piece of gear in all of fly fishing. Fly rods get all the glamour, and reels, even though they're often not used up to their potential by most anglers, get a lot of attention. But fly line is that necessary thing that makes your rod work. It also gets your fly in front of the fish. And it's not particularly expensive, but if you get the right stuff and you use it the right way, it can really improve your fishing. So what I want to talk about in this video and the accompanying article is when you should take care of your fly line. Either clean it, replace it, or upgrade it. So first, I'm going to go out and cast an older fly line. Now this is a top of the line fly line that I have. It's a 6-weight, weight forward, but it's dirty. Usually I clean my line a few times a year if I use it a lot, definitely at the end of every season, even if I don't fish it that much. This line, I never got around to cleaning at the end of last season, and even though I've used it a few times this season, I haven't cleaned it yet. So this is probably about 12 to 15 months of grime and river gunk on my line. So I'm gonna go cast this, see how it performs, and then we'll clean it and see what happens next. Now the line seemed to perform pretty well. I was casting at 50 to 55 feet relatively effortlessly, but I wonder how much of that is the fact that I've grown accustomed to this line, and maybe as it's broken down, I've just compensated by the way that I cast. And so at this point, what I would suggest for myself and anybody else is that you clean the line, see how much that changes things. It's simple enough to get some delicate dish soap like Dawn in warm water and let your line soak in that and then reel it back through a non-abrasive gentle cloth. But if you can get a hold of something like this, a line cleaning kit, then that's going to do a little bit more for you. It's not just going to clean your line, it's also going to fill in some of those gaps and maybe even add a little bit of lubrication. So I'm going to go ahead and clean my line. The easiest way to do that is to keep it on the rod, pull all that line out, cast it out if you're able to do so, and then reel it back in through your cloth or through your cleaning pad. So that happened pretty much as I expected. A little bit of line cleaner. This is a Loon's line speed. It did wonders on the line. There was virtually no sound as that line went through the guides. It's just a reminder of how much junk you collect on your fly line throughout the course of fishing. And eventually that stuff is what leads to your line's coating getting deteriorated and cracked. I would say even more so than hitting rocks and things like that. So using a cleaner, even if it's just something like Dawn dish soap, can really give your line not just a longer life, but also better performance. I don't know if you saw in the video, but the casts were actually doglegging to the left, and that's indicative of that line moving a lot faster than I anticipated. And so I didn't have enough slack line at my feet, and so as I was hitting the end of my cast, it was hitting the end and all that power was taking it off to the left. And so that just shows how much difference there was between the unclean line and the clean line. For the next part of the demonstration, or the experiment I should say, I'm going to put on a replacement fly line. This is the exact same fly line, although instead of being in buckskin or tan, it's going to be in yellow. But the exact same fly line, I like this line a lot, and so I bought another line years afterwards when it was on sale. And so I'm going to put this on and see how a brand new line is going to change the way the cast feels and performs. So I'm actually really surprised. The brand new version of the old line significantly outperformed the clean version of the old line. I mean, it was very noticeable. My first attempt at casting, that line moved so quickly that I got that sonic snap that we often hate to hear because that line was moving so quickly. It's the exact same line, just a brand new, never fished version. And so I think there's a few reasons for that. As good as the line cleaning solution is, it's not going to compensate for the larger cracks that you have in your fly line. It's also not going to accommodate all of that degradation that comes from just the damage from UV rays that are bombarding your line as it's outside, as it's in your car, and different conditions like that. So a brand new line is going to have that super slick coating. The other thing that we really can't take into account in this experiment is the fact that the line's ability to float is a significant variable that you should take into account when you're talking about old line, even after it's been cleaned, and new line. Some line cleaning agents have floatant capacities to them, but they're not going to compensate for those larger cracks in the PVC coating, which allows water to penetrate the core of the line and continue to degrade it from the inside, but then also cause it to not float as long. So that's another significant reason why replacing your line would be a very viable option if you're not having the same kind of floating capabilities that you're used to having with your fly line. Not a problem fishing streamers, but if you are fishing some sort of nymphing techniques and certainly dry flies, you want a line that's going to stay floating longer. Dressing that line, cleaning that line is going to help it stay on top, but eventually you're going to hit a point of diminishing returns where no matter how much you clean it, you are going to want to replace that line. And this line shows that is a very viable option. But that's a line that's maybe 6, 7, 8 years old. Even though this one's brand new, it's an older technology. I'm going to put next on a brand new line, brand new. This is the Rio Rio Elite Perception. And this is a similar taper to the line that I was casting, but this is a brand new top of the line. So I'm going to put this on, cast it, see what sort of differences I feel as I'm out there casting. Again, in that 40 to 60 foot range, normal trout and warm water distance cast. Well, you absolutely get what you pay for. This line from Rio, the new Elite Rio Perception, it's an excellent line. Now, it's a little bit different than the previous line I was throwing, but that's because it's significantly newer than the previous line I was throwing. We've kind of gotten to a place in fly lines where they're not super heavy. They're not built to flex those incredibly stiff rods that have been in vogue for quite a while. So although this is a little bit of a heavier taper than the previous line I was throwing, it's not significantly heavier that it's making my rod do different things. With only minimal adjustments to my casts, I was able to make the cast that I was wanting to make at 40, 50, 60 feet. Incredibly slick. That's one of the things that Rio is touting in their new series of lines. It's called Slick Cast Coating, and it didn't make any sound going through my line. Now, I've talked about that with all of the different kinds of lines I've casted today. What does that mean? Well, when you hear your line going through your guides, what you're hearing is contact. And the more contact, the more friction, and the more friction, the less line speed that you're generating. And so that is going to result in shorter casts and more inaccurate casts. And that's to put it shortly. So what's the moral of the story? Well, you can clean your fly line and go a long way with that. It really does improve the performance of your casting. It's not going to make the line float higher forever, and it's not going to make it a better casting line, but it is going to restore those casting elements that you had before the line started to get broken down and dirty. You can replace your line and get back to where you want to be. You'll be very, very pleased by doing so. And I would suggest if you find a line that you like, wait till it goes on sale and buy it before you can't find it anymore. But if you want to really upgrade, then upgrade. Pay the money for a fly line that is going to work on your rod. Go out and cast some. Look at taper charts. Figure out the particular grain weights of every line, because not every 5 weight's a 5 weight, not every 6 weight's a 6 weight in the exact same way. So find a line that works for you, that casts really well. Maybe it has some bells and whistles that you like. It is nice to have the different color of coatings on the line so you know exactly where you are when you pick up. But those things aren't essential. But if that's something that you like, then definitely check it out. If you want more information about fly lines or anything else that has to do with the quarry and culture of fly fishing, go to castingacross.com, where there's 2 posts Monday and Wednesday and a podcast every Friday on the people, places, and things that go into the pursuit of fish.